almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria. Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene living
to TVN, Television Nigeria, broadcast beyond boundaries.
Africa's finest breakfast show, Daybreak Nigeria, on television Nigeria. And we are now in the discuss segment where we look at very salient issues of national interest. Today we'll be looking at the Islamic movement of Nigeria's consistent protest, talking about the Zaki protest. The implications is what we're looking at. I want to say a big thank you to Professor Isa Hassan Inwa Bishari Guru, who is a lecturer with the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, from the building department, all the way from Kaduna, right here in the live studios, just to share his thoughts with us. Good morning. Nice to have you join us.
Good morning.
All right, I would like to know, looking at the consistent protest by the IMN, what has been this true situation? At the point we had your leader come out to speak to Nigerians to say he's well, everything is okay, and urged his followers not to panic. So what happened that suddenly we're beginning to see more protests playing out?
Okay, the protest has been going on for quite a very long time.
Yeah.
And of course, since his detention, these protests have been taking place in other parts of the nation.
All right.
Around Kaduna, Zaria, Kano, Sokoto, Bauchi, and every other place. But just towards the end of this last year,
okay,
we discovered that there was this kind of maltreatment, and somehow the DSS is pushing the case too hard against the sheikh, and even spreading the rumor that he has died and so on. So as a result of that, that instigated people to come out and then start the Abuja protest. The Abuja protest, even before this time, it has been, it went on right from 2015, but it's not as frequent as it is now. So after this, information started coming out almost on a daily basis, and something it has never stopped. So then, in addition to that, in order to tackle the problem, what the government decided to come out and say, asked the press to go and had an interview with him, which was unprepared. They didn't tell him it was just a visit actually, because they didn't tell him that he was going to see any press. When he went to the hospital, they just stopped him, and then he was interviewed. But I think the intention was just to show to the followers that yes, he is alive. But that was not enough. What they were saying that he should be released.
Okay, the federal government did tell us, the president, when after the several court orders for his release, did say he was a danger, security threat to the nation. That was why he was being held. Looking at how violent his members have been, could we say the president is truly right that he's a security threat to the nation?
He is not a security threat to anybody. He lived in the society since his life, and this movement has been there throughout over 40 years now, and we have never harmed anybody so far, and there is no record of any case of violence with anybody. So I don't think it's...
Can we say that is true? Because the information reaching us from persons who reside in Zaria say every time there's a procession by this particular group of people are more intimidated not to use that same road because they come in numbers, the way they are dressed with machetes and arms. It's so scary to other members of the public, and thus quite a threat to...
This is one of the many impressions the government created.
No, we're saying people...
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they are government agents, what I'm coming. Because it is true, this is what government spreads. So government supporters will definitely tell you this. But since the protest, particularly this time around in Abuja, for over 100 days, procession has been going every day, sometimes twice, and we have never seen anybody with machete or anything, or any weapon, and they have never harassed anybody. And in fact, almost everybody has confirmed, including the government officials have confirmed that our demonstrations, our protest is very, very peaceful.
Okay, so apart from the peaceful protest, is there any other way the group is going about it to make sure that...
we take a lot of legal issues.
Okay, and how far has that been going?
So, okay, like the first one we took against his own detention, you can see, presided by Gabriel Kolawa, the Federal High Court here in Abuja, which ordered his own release and declared him of any offense. And that was one. And then we have others here in Abuja and Kaduna as well. That's still going on.
Okay.
You made mention that the DSS is pushing too hard, and people got details that he's being maltreated presently. How did you get that information when you don't have an insight per se? We would like to know how that information came out that made you so sure that that information was true.
Yeah, the information is true because though he is detained, but still he has contact. There are some people that are having direct contact with him.
Okay, what would be your suggestion now to the federal government as a way to reach peace, just to avoid this consistent violent protests we're witnessing?
Okay, I think the advice is just one. The Sheikh Ibrahim has been cleared of all offenses, doesn't have anything. He should be released, that is all. And if he is released, I don't think this daily protest will take place here in Abuja. Although we have some other activities to show, to express our feelings sometimes during Maulud and some other occasions, but it will not be as frequent as it is going on.
Have you got any international support thus far that has helped you people sustain this protest, the feeding of this member? How do you have somebody financing you?
Financially, nobody supports us in any way because we have been self-sufficient.
Well, is that true? With the report that says you got links with Iran, the Shiite group in Iran, and that's the reason why the other sects within the Islamic League is fighting the Shiites.
If we have any relationship with Iran, it's only Islam. We are Muslims and they are Muslims. Just like we have the same relationship
Is that completely
with Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia. It's the same relationship. We don't have any special relationship either as individual as a group with Iran.
Okay.
You made mention that if there will be any protest, it will be in Abuja. If he is released, would there be any need for you to protest again? Since the main reason why you're protesting is because of his release.
Yeah, actually now the protest is free.
Yes.
Like I said, we have some other activities which look like procession.
Okay, but not protest.
Not protest, but procession.
Okay.
Like I said, like Maulud.
Okay.
During the time of the birthday of the Prophet, so we go out and just with colorful dresses. Yes, and band.
Do you have do you think there's a hidden agenda while Mr. President also being sharing the same faith like you? How come he's finding it difficult to release someone who has so much?
There are hidden agendas, but we know actually the agenda even before the clampdown was yesterday. The emir, one of the officials of Saudi Arabia came out to say that when they heard of the agitation to release Ibrahim Yakubu Ezeki in detention, they said that he should not be released because they sponsored this program. They got killed, the massacre in Zaria, and the continued detention of Ibrahim Yakubu Ezeki. So you can see the link. And again, we knew even right from the beginning it was even beyond that because a year before the massacre in Zaria, they came out to analyze. They took our statistics. They even said that our population was about 20 million, and they improved Saudi Arabian televisions.
They came to Zaria?
No, their own assessment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were saying that they were complaining that the Shiite are growing number very fast in Nigeria, and they know that Sheikh Ibrahim as a single person was able to spread Shiism so much, and they are again. So they just like
what group do they belong to?
Well, the Saudi Arabian government, not the Saudi.
The Saudi Arabian government. What?
They are Wahhabis.
Wahhabis.
Yeah, they are Wahhabis. So they are actually against it. They just spread terrorism.
But why are they against the Shiites?
Since your group is not a violent group.
Well, because you see, there's one thing. If you are not violent, but you are doing the right thing, and someone who is doing the bad thing, they will not like.
So the Wahhabis are not doing the right thing.
They are not doing the right thing because in the sense that they are just there to rule. They are rulers.
Why
are not Islamic? Not Islamic as per se. It is not Islam that they are spreading, but it's Wahhabism they are spreading in order to maintain their regime. It's not so. Forget the fact that there are Saudis and there is the Saudi government. You know the difference. Yeah. Recently, let me conclude also. Recently, the Saudi Arabian MBS, that is Mohammed Salman.
That's the crown prince.
The crown prince is saying that they were made to spread Wahhabism all over the world under the instruction of the Americans. And the Wahhabism there, we get the ISIS, the Al Qaeda, the Boko Haram.
They're all with the Wahhabis.
Yes. So he said they were made to spread that. I think it was everywhere on the media. So he said they were made to spread Wahhabism based on the request of Israel, America.
If we bring it back to Nigeria, could we say that's what they are spreading with the recent herdsmen killings we're seeing in the country?
Well, there is complication there.
What's the complication?
The complication there is that we initially had Boko Haram, which have that link. And they even...
Does the Shiite have the link with Boko Haram, you're saying?
No.
The Wahhabis.
The Wahhabis. So you can see even the Boko Haram leader proclaimed or made it also, paid allegiance
Are you talking about the dead Boko Haram leader?
No, Shekau.
Okay.
To Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Okay.
Which is also, you can see, when you look at their color, it's the same thing, their mode of killing is the same thing, their vehicle is the same thing, everything about them is the same thing. So that is how, so they have that link.
Okay.
Well, so when you now look at the situation in the issue of flying headsmen, yeah, you see the problem is, when you look at the current situation in the world, no country does things alone.
Okay.
What happened to us, happened, that is the Zaria massacre, was started by even during the time of Jonathan, where he killed a lot of us. And again, that time, they came through another person, not through Saudi Arabia, clearly. But this time, because Buhari is a Muslim, so now he fronted the issue, and they came indirectly. So they are collection of countries. So what is happening there with the Fulani herdsmen is the same Boko Haram, but in a different form. But the same people.
That's the Wahhabis.
The Wahhabis. And they could be Wahhabis, or because the analysis is when they now throw when you look at ISIS in the Middle East, they are Wahhabis, Salafis, that's another name for them.
Okay.
But then they now have CIA officials who are not even non-Muslims,
okay,
and then who are not non-Muslims participating directly with appearing like Muslims, and this is exactly what has been happening. And we have a lot of these cases, which is also there in the media. It's not a hidden agenda. Issue. Everybody knows that one. So the same thing now, which is an issue. Look at the type of massacre with the Fulani herdsmen. You can see how gruesome it is. It is a type of killing that will instigate people. So do
you think the president is aware of these groups and their agenda? Is Mr. President aware of this agenda?
He may be aware, and he may be part of it. When you are gradually drawn into it, there's nothing you can do.
Why?
It's because
he's the president.
You see, the issue is you have a relationship with other countries, and you sign a different agreements. So among these kind of agreements, these kind of things will be hidden under it, and the things that will be perpetrated under you, and there's nothing you can do. And that's what happened to even in other countries, not only in Nigeria.
Okay, so now that you've been able to explain to us down the lane how all of this started, links and all of that, so what do you think will be likely solution to get out? Because obviously this is not a Nigeria problem alone. It has links from other places. So what would you say would be the solution to this?
Well, the solution is one, as I used to look at it, because one, this is Nigerian situation. We are not the first people to enter this kind of situations. I have an example of Iraq. Okay. Iraq is a country that has a lot of similarities with Nigeria, both in population, both in tribes, they have Muslims, they have Christians, they have Shia, they have Sunni, they have agitations, okay, and they have different kind of tribes as many as we have in Nigeria. They had issues with security issues of first Al Qaeda when America entered. Okay. There was no Al Qaeda issues, but when America entered in 2003, then there was Al Qaeda, and there was a lot of killing, and there was a lot of destruction. Then, after some decades of years, they were able to. When you are not able to establish the government, America was not able to establish its basis there. She decided to pull out. Okay. Now, after pulling out, they now recently, about just 2015, they now created the ISIL. Now, ISIL overnight took over 1/3 of Iraqi country. Upon all the problems they had, as poor as they are. But then the only solution they had was to mobilize the students. And even in Mosul alone,
okay,
which is the second largest city, there are over 30 to 35,000 security men. So most of their soldiers and generals were under with the IC. So they don't, can see, no country could survive under this kind of situation. But what they did was there was a great Imam, which is Sheikh Ali Sistani, which came out and said, who came out and said that all youths should come out and defend their country. And within less than 1 week, they gathered more than 1 million people to were ready to. And that's how they were able to fight it. They fought it and then defeated it. And they have celebrated the defeat, and they have there is reconciliation now.
Okay.
And
all right, let's come back to Nigeria. You made mention of that the Shiites were growing in number, and Saudi Arabia didn't like that, I guess, and that's why they're trying to. Looking at the Sunnis in Nigeria, which the president is part of, would you say the Sunnis are all out for the Shiites in Nigeria?
No, they are not.
Okay.
Shiites are not, Sunnis are not all out for Shiites.
Okay.
We have been living
but
peacefully.
with the stand of Mr. President, how do you see everything playing out?
Well, Mr. President, I don't know where he stands, because, for instance, one may not have you may belong to a sect, but because of your inactivity in the religion, you may decide just to be political somehow, and you can be put here and there, and that is what is happening.
All right, on the final note, let's look at ahead of the elections in 2019. If Zaki is not released before 2019, what is likely going to be the consequence?
Well, there's no consequences as much as more than the fact that the protest will continue. Maybe
even against the federal government's orders and the Nigerian police saying no more protest. Would you still go against the Nigerian police?
No, it is not an issue of going against the Nigerian police. We are not going against anybody. This protest is every citizen's constitutional right. Peaceful protest.
But IMN has been labeled to be violent in their protest, and told not to protest.
Yes, that is, like I said, that was the impression the creators what Abuja has seen.
But the last protest, we actually did see some of your members in fist fight with the Nigerian police officers, throwing stones at the Nigerian police. That's violence.
Yeah, okay, look at it. The issue is not, the issue is violent actually. Okay. But who caused the violence? Okay. I am carrying out my legitimate right.
Okay.
And someone came to stop me.
Okay.
I have to resist it. And who is breaching the law? Okay. The person. So because fundamental human right is everybody's right. That cannot be taken away from you. So nobody will. So if any person comes and says you should stop, and you must stop, he is the one looking for trouble. It's not you, because what you are doing is legal. And for someone who came to kill you with life plate and you use a simple stone just to deter him, I don't think we have gone too much.
Have you been able to reach out to Zaki recently, let's say in the last 2 days? And what is his view about the protest? Have you been able to get his view?
Well, I've not, but there's nothing wrong in protest. We have been protesting here and there. For instance, we have been protesting issues related to occupation of Palestinian land by Israelites, and also other things from time to time. So we have been protesting, and he knows, and he's aware.
So he's in support of the protest?
He is because we not only because of this one. If anybody's right is tempered with, we can come out and protest.
Okay, what's going to be the Shiites' decision in 2019 when it's time to vote?
Well, we'll come out and vote.
Would the president's not too clear stand give him you people's vote or not?
Would
the president's stand saying he's of security threat, that's why he's leaving him behind bars? When it comes to the election time, is that going to make you vote for Mr. President?
I think the issues of who to vote for, I think it is personal, because if I say I'm going to vote for this one, another person may.
So no problem. We just want to know what they've gone through.
But generally, nobody. For instance, my daughter was killed in the Zaria massacre.
Wow.
So would I elect somebody who killed my daughter? Just ordinary, just thinking, am I going to vote for him? Even if he has given me the best things in life, I will never vote for him. Personally. What others may, that's politics.
All right, what will be your final message to
I have
Nigerians?
not concluded the issue of relating to the solution to this country.
Okay, let's hear
I was
yours.
even saying that,
Okay.
but, except when you have gotten these in the citizens involved,
Okay.
then there must be good contact or good relationship, rapport between the people and the governance. Okay, all the arms of the government. Now it is the people that are suffering. The government and the other arms of the government, for instance, the judiciary, and so they are indifferent about the case. Like what is happening in Benue, what is happening in Buzi, what is happening in Zamfara. No, thank you. But the citizens are suffering. So it is only when they realize that they come together and work together, then we'll be able to solve the problem. As long as they do not come, then this problem will persist.
All right, just to wrap it up, I would like to get your views as for how activities within the Ahmadu Bello University is going on as regards this strike protest. Does it occur within the school premises? And how have you been able to galvanize other people to support you?
Our own activities involve, we have a lot of activities.
Does the school back your activities?
They may not, because you see the government, the institutions, somehow they have the support or they told the same line of the government. Yeah, okay. So what you may be doing, they may not like it. But all the things that had never stopped out from doing what we are doing, because it is part of us, and even now we come out with our children and then perform our activities as usual. We do protest from time to time, even within the campus. Yes, and outside the campus, and we organize lectures and some other things like this.
All right, we've been talking to Professor Isa Hassan Inua Shagaru, who is a lecturer of the building department in Ahmadu Bello University Zaria in Kaduna State. He joined us from Kaduna. He's right here in the live studio. We want to say thank you very much for joining us. And
thank you.
We want to say big sorry for your daughter who you lost during that massacre. All right, we'll be going on a quick break. When we come back from this break, we're having another guest in the studio. This guest you don't want to miss.
Not to keep quiet on this matter. They are killing our people back home.
Mr. Trump, please blow your...
I have so many friends going to your countries trying to get rich.
Hello viewers, welcome to the Oracle live on television Nigeria. The Oracle is a 1-hour free consultation clinic on governance.
Alright, welcome back from that break. It's Television Nigerian and it's Africa's finest breakfast show, Daybreak Nigeria, right here. My name is Anthony Momodu. The next topic we're looking at is protecting Nigerian refugees. Over the weekend, we had the United Nations come out and issued a very stern warning to the Cameroonian authorities, asking them not to send back Nigerian refugees back to the Boko Haram enclave in order to follow international laws that gives rights to refugees to be protected by the host nation. Right here we have our guest, Ahmed Buhari, who happens to be a presidential aspirant for the upcoming elections. And this is to say Nigerian youths, not lazy, we're even calling for the top post. And that is to say we're truly ready to take what belongs to us. Good morning, nice to have you in the studio.
Good morning, good to see you.
How has it been touring Nigeria, trying to get votes for becoming the next president of Nigeria?
Thank you for the opportunity. For me, it's bigger than just getting votes.
Okay.
It's about sensitizing the minds of young people and Nigeria generally, because I come from a generation where during the days of school, we had this harmony, we had this unity. We lived together in the hostels. We didn't want to even know where we were from. There was this trust. There was less fear because there were people talking to each other. So I don't know what the military did at that time, but there was this cohesion amongst the Nigerian people, which we do not find today. And for me, I'm taking it upon myself to see if we can get ourselves back to those days when Nigeria used to be a united front. But more than anything else, like we've always said, the four things that are really, really important to us is to have a united country that is secure and a decentralized government, because as we are right now, one of the problems we're having is the fact that the centers are able to hold. And finally, we want to have a country that is prosperous on economic grounds. So we have to leverage on our comparative economic advantages and see how we can all move together.
All right, with the United Nations warning to Cameroon, if you become president, for instance, what do you think you could do to protect refugees and even, first of all, stop the issue of migrants moving, first of all?
Thank you. The last part of your question is the most important one, which has to do with why does this sense even happen in the first place? So 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we used to be the strongest, most respected country in this entire region. We used to be the first point of call anytime anybody outside the African continent has to talk to an African country to do anything, whether peacekeeping, whether enforcing the law, whether ensuring that some of the irregularities are enshrined in the international laws are met. So, but right now what we're facing is a total disregard for Nigeria as it stands. Right now we can't even boast of a strong military might, we can't even boast of a strong security system, and this is because we have allowed a whole long time to bring about infiltration into our system, and now we're talking about Nigerians fleeing the country to look for sort or whatever in other countries. It's unfair. So for me, I think we should first of all look at how we have to tackle our security problems and ensure that the people within our country are secure and safe. You cannot do this if you don't have a proper data management system. That is what's lacking in this country. We don't know how many people we have. How do we intend to now, cater for them? So we don't know how many Nigerians are fleeing into Cameroon. We don't know how many Nigerians we're expecting back from Cameroon. We don't have any prepared land area or where you want to keep the IDPs, should the case be, if they're going to be within the country. So those are the problems, and how our country is handling it with kid gloves is what is even giving me the fear. And if we do not do something in the urgency, I fear that we're going to be heading towards a destination where we're not able to recover from our losses.
Okay, so let's look at the ones that are here. We have not even been able to handle the ones that are in Nigeria. Talking about handling the ones that are outside. So let's start from.
Fantastic. It's the corruption involved. So we've heard how army generals have been involved in trying to see how these reoccurrence in how the attacks do not stop, so that some people keep getting some monies to ensure that they quell the tension around those regions. So for me, basically, if we do not have a system that gives us a clear indication of how we ensure that there's accountability, how we ensure that there's efficiency, how we ensure there's transparency, we cannot have all of these things working. So I keep telling people that want to listen to us, when we talk about data, we're not just talking about figures. We're talking about figures that we can use to plan, figures that we can use to forecast, and figures that we can use to address some of the issues even before they happen. So now we're talking about a country who obviously has lost total control over its defense. And I saw this coming up from 2005, 2006. And anybody might believe me or not, but at that time, for the first time, we had a minister of defense who truly wasn't prepared for that kind of responsibility. And this is why I keep saying to politicians, you can compensate your cronies with other projects that you will ensure that you do properly, but you cannot compensate them with offices that are so delicate to the Nigerian state itself. So if you don't put the right people in place, you think we just naturally fall apart. And that's exactly what we're going through now. So for me, with regards to the IDPs, the people that have been stealing, there's this Babachir case, I don't know where it is now, nobody's talking about it. When you take people like that to jail, nobody else will do the same thing tomorrow. But the fact that we are not following up with our cases, the fact that we're putting laws in place and that we're not ensuring that we take them to the very, very end in courts and ensuring that these people are put behind bars, we keep having this recurrence of those kind of problems.
All right, looking at Cameroon, who the United Nations held responsible for sending back Nigerian refugees to conflict-infested areas, does that tell us that probably we have to rejig our international policy and interactions, bilateral agreements?
Absolutely. That's the fundamental problem. So before now, we were ahead of nearly everything that Africa has to do. And some people will say, why Nigeria? But there's a need for that. You have to impose yourself to be relevant. And if it was in those days, this kind of thing was happening, you would hear African countries that would be willing to take Nigerian refugees because they want to be in our good books. But right now, even within ourselves, we don't seem to have it together. And people are seeing us. They can read us. They can see our leaders at international conferences, international forums, not having this strong ability to say, this is that same giant of Africa anymore. And so slowly, it seems to be slipping away. And if we do not do something very quickly to address it, we may not have a total control over it anymore.
All right, this takes me to the next question, which involves you.
Yes.
Our leaders. We've not, in a long time, we've not gotten a leader who's truly charismatic, or who seems agile and, able to get what we want.
Yeah.
Do you fit that bill? And what else does it require?
When you ask whether I fit that bill, now you're asking me to say, oh no, I don't. that would be silly of me. So for me, I think what we truly need right now is generational shifts.
All right.
We need to,
especially when Nigerian youths seem to be lazy.
No, well, to be fair to the president, he didn't quite say we're lazy. But I think if the president's listening, my advice to him is, get yourself involved in more interaction with the journalists. Talk to people in Nigeria. Talk to Nigerian people. Have conferences that you attend. Have media chats. This will prepare you for the big day.
Okay.
Yes. So the moment you continue avoiding meeting with people, and unfortunately you always go abroad. When you go abroad and then these media people meet you, and then you don't know what to say, because to start with, the question that the president was asked was different from the answer that he gave.
Does that tell us why we need younger, vibrant leaders?
Again, the function of leadership is not age.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've seen old people who have performed well, and we've seen young people who haven't performed well. I mean, you can use Nigeria as an example.
Does Dino fall into that category?
Who's Dino?
There's a senator that jumped out of the van, right?
Now there are leaders, there are comedians, and there are singers, and there are actors. So different people fall in different categories. I think this is the time when young people like us should say to ourselves, we're not going to take this anymore.
Yeah.
If we're going to be categorized as one enclave of lazy people, we're going to prove them wrong. We're going to stand up, we're going to unite ourselves together for a purpose, which is rescuing ourselves from all that has been going on in Nigeria for a very long time. And more essentially, we would have to be honest with ourselves. We do have some of us that are nonchalant, we do have some of us that are lazy, and we would have to start talking about ourselves to see how we can get that lost hope and revive ourselves and start looking at a vision where we can actually say, yes, we're heading somewhere. So with regards to very charismatic person. That is something that people don't have to judge. But what is most important for me, I think, in the last 2 years, from the time we made the declaration to run for this office, we've been to every look and cranny of this country. And one thing that we've been trying to say to people is, except we have a united country, we cannot have a prosperous country. Only united people can prosper. And then the biggest problem that we're facing right now, if I would have to look at the times in the 80s, when I was a young boy in primary stroke secondary school, I think the biggest problem we're having now is the fact that we have allowed fear to engulf us. And my favorite quote is always, hate is not the first enemy of love. It is fear. Because fear destroys our ability to trust. That trust is what is missing in the Nigerian system. We always have this fear when we see the next person, believing that he coming here, he has an ulterior motive. We have to look for a way to break down, douse down that fear. And the only way this can happen is more interaction, really.
My last question will be for you is looking at your name, Ahmed Buhari.
Yes.
And people are like, okay, this is another Buhari. Mm-hmm. But let's picture you there. Let's picture you there already. What would be the first thing you're going to be targeting as the president?
First of all, I'll clear up the first question, which is, yes, my name is Ahmed Buhari, and yes, a lot of people have said, oh, we like you, we think you've got something to offer, but we're not comfortable with that name. And I keep telling people that when you find a person, do not judge him by the religion he practices, do not judge him by his ethnicity, the color of his skin. Actually, at least focus on the content of his character, because that's the most important thing about every human being. We are what we are based on our beliefs and where we're from, not by our design. So it's important for us to separate ourselves from that mentality and that ideology and start focusing on how we can get the best out of people. And so to answer your last question, which is when we get a award, first of all, we're going to do a lot of things, especially on the exclusive list within the first 48 hours. And what I mean by exclusive list, we have to think about how we have to decentralize our system. So when we talk about restructuring, I'm a firm advocate of restructuring. And when we talk about restructuring, a lot of people from the northern part of this country are always worried that, okay, if we restructure this country, what's going to happen to us? But I wanted to remind people in the north that we do have potentials. At the time, the northern part of this country actually sustained the economy of this country. Why can't we go back to those days? Why have we been made to believe that everything that we would have to use to sustain ourselves has to come from the oil-rich part of this country? And even the oil-rich part of this country doesn't even look so rich when you go there. So people have to now know where to or who to hold accountable for their misfortunes. So if we have a senator that's not standing for you, or a National Assembly member that's not standing for you, or a governor that's not standing for you, you know exactly where to point, not necessarily the center, because truly the center is holding too much and it's breaking.
All right, you made mention of who to hold responsible.
Yes.
In terms of politics, a little bit now, in protecting the lives of Nigerians, refugees and all that, how easy would you say the game is changing in your quest of going around touring the country? You
Yes.
had to meet with some elites,
Yes.
godfathers, so to say. What do they still have a role to play in deciding the future of Nigeria, protection of Nigerian refugees and all that?
So first of all, I didn't go to meet them because they were godfathers.
Okay.
I met them because they were people who have been part of the system.
Okay.
And I have heard some of them at different times say, which youth are you talking about? They're not ready. So I went with them, and the line I keep saying to all of them when I meet them is, thank you for the opportunity. I want you to know that we are ready for this. We have the capacity, we have the ability, but we know that we can't do it alone. We don't have the guidance and the of course support of elders, because I want young people to understand one thing. This is not just a youth agenda. No, it has to be an all-inclusive agenda. So regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your religion, social status, political party, ideological affiliation, gender equity, or and even age. So everybody has to come together, because some of the old people that I met in the course of this journey have said, please do this for us, because we couldn't do it on our time. And so they also have kids that they can't pay school fees for, and they're hoping that we can actually get them to the point where they'll be able to sustain all those kind of responsibilities that have fallen on them. So overall, the reception has been great. We've had a lot of people in the older generation say, yes, we think you guys should try it, maybe we've lost it. And it's normal, because what could have worked in the 70s certainly will not work today.
All right, okay.
Just to get your view on, let's tilt a bit, looking at what's happening in Benue State. do you think, definitely we have a lot of displaced people in the state presently, killings going on every day on the news. Do you think it's time for, is it too long overdue for a state of emergency? And what's the solution to that?
It's long overdue for a state of emergency, but there are two things for a government should be looking at when it comes to this refugee situation and the security situation. The first is a long-term plan, which is to ensure that there is peace and stability across the African region. We have to ensure that we put laws that is going to stop the entrance of ammunition and dangerous weapons through the Libya borders, because in all honesty, Libya has become a gateway for a lot of nonsense coming in from Europe, and this spreads through Africa. And of course, Nigeria is a hub where everybody wants to come and flex their muscles, because in my opinion, our borders have been porous in the last 10 to 15 years. So with regards to the Benue, there's supposed to be a state of emergency, but with regards to the herdsmen situation, I think it's long overdue for us to have a firm statement from the center of this country saying every single herdsman has to stop and get themselves into ranches. We need to get them off the road first, because in my opinion, I've sampled opinions from people from other parts of the country, and they say there are no herdsmen doing these things. Our herdsmen don't have the kind of weapons that would, carry out this kind of massacre. So I want to listen to them as well, because that's the other side of the story. But when trying to listen to them, I want to say the first thing we should do is to get the herdsmen off the road, get them into ranches. Now that we don't have them on the road anymore, let's see if the killings will happen. If the killings happen, then we know we're under siege.
All right, on that very instructive note, we're calling the wrap on this discussion. We've been talking to Ahmed Buhari, a presidential aspirant for the upcoming general elections right here in Nigeria. We've been talking about protecting Nigerian refugees, going with what the United Nations said over the weekend, that Cameroonian authorities were sending back Nigerian refugees to the enclaves of Boko Haram, and we've had his thoughts. I want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll go for a quick break. When we come back, Daybreak continues.
Thank you.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today, or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria. Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. equipped computer laboratory and library, secured atmosphere, extracurricular activities, an all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child, comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence.
Information remains the bedrock in every stage of development. It develops both the human mind and the society at large. Television Nigerian is here to avail you with that information you need for all-round development through its mind-blowing programs such as news, talk shows, health and safety, governance and politics, sports, entertainment, kids, documentaries, finance, global happenings, human disposition from childhood to adulthood. It's a manifestation of what you see, what you hear, and say. Tune in and stay tuned to TVN, Television Nigeria. Broadcast beyond boundaries.
Senator Dino Melaye admitted into hospital after ordeal with police. National Assembly to investigate theft of Senate maize. Former Information Minister bags presidency over lazy youth comments. And in sports, Super Eagles captain Mikel Obi hopeful of Eagles World Cup performance. These and more stories in a moment. I am Nten Ekpan with the AM News on Television Nigerian. Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. An all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. Comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence. Reports reaching us say operatives of the Nigerian police force were engaged in a scuffle with Senator Dino Melaye at the Area 1 axis of the Federal Capital Territory. The police operatives reportedly tried to take the embattled lawmaker to Kogi State, where he is expected to stand trial for arms, running, and other related offenses. The lawmaker's refusal to join the police to Kogi State led to a heated exchange, with Senator Dino Melaye allegedly jumping out of a moving police vehicle in which he is being transported. Other accounts say that the lawmaker was thereafter taken to the office of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad in Abuja, less than 5 kilometers from the scene of the incident. Meanwhile, the senator has been admitted into the intensive care unit of Zankle Hospital in Abuja. In other news, a joint committee of the National Assembly is set to investigate last week's invasion and theft of the maze of the upper chamber by thugs allegedly linked to Senator Ovie Omoagege. The president of the Senate disclosed these after over 2 hours of executive session. The meeting, which held behind closed doors, had the maze-snatching saga dominating discussions as the House resolved to constitute a committee to unravel the circumstances surrounding the ugly incident. Senator Saraki also commended the office of the Sergeant-at-Arms for courageously responding to the invasion as he sought the cooperation of Nigerians to defend democracy. The President of the Senate added that the legislature will do all it can to ensure the sustenance of democracy, insisting that the security architecture of the National Assembly will be reviewed to prevent a repeat of the incidents. A former Minister of Information, Tony Momo, believes that President Muhammadu Buhari's A former Minister of Information, Tony Momo, believes that President Muhammadu Buhari owes no one an apology over his reported comments that described Nigerian youths as lazy. Momo said the president was right for saying a lot of Nigerian youths are sitting at home doing nothing. Momo, a leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress, said this in an interview with the National Daily. Momo said that unlike other professional politicians, President Muhammadu Buhari was never afraid of speaking the truth. He further asked the president not to apologize to the country's youths as he accused them of staying at home doing nothing. He stressed that the president's apology should be directed at government's effort at the need for youths to be patient with administration in its drive to create opportunities for the youths. After the break, Abia South Senatorial District begins recall of Senator Abaribe, and in sports, Super Eagles captain Mikel will be hopeful of superb outing against England. And on the foreign scene, United States President warns Iran of serious problems ahead.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today, or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria.
Thanks for staying tuned. The people of Abia South Senatorial District have commenced the process of recalling Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe, representing the area at the National Assembly. This followed the resolution reached by stakeholders from various political parties in the 6 local government areas in Abia South under the aegis of Coalition of Abia South Senatorial Movement. Leader of the movement, Paul Ikonne, who addressed journalists in Aba, said the decision to recall Senator Abaribe was based on the failure of the senator to impact meaningfully on the welfare of the people through quality representation. Paul Ikonne said the senator has failed to push for governance and good laws, insisting that the constituency can no longer tolerate the senator's laid-back approach to the developmental issues of the area. And also speaking, the state chairman of the Advanced People's Democratic Party, Mobodo Nwanganga, observed that efforts to call the senator to order had not yielded positive results. And similarly, a member of the People's Democratic Party from Obingwa local government, Chima Nwere Uzo, said the move to recall Senator Abaribe was long overdue as he had derailed from the mandate given him, noting that there was nothing to show for his 12 years in the Senate. And to some sports news now, Super Eagles captain John Mikel Obi has expressed confidence that the team will be at their best ahead of their June 2nd friendly match against England at Wembley. Mikel Obi, who turned 31 recently, admitted that Gernot Rohr's men have little margin for error, explaining that the match comes up only 2 weeks before the Eagles' opening at the World Cup. Mikel revealed that the proposed friendly will be a big occasion and a big match for both teams as they look forward to the Mondial proper. Nigeria faces Croatia in their first Group D match at the 2018 World Cup at the Kaliningrad Stadium on Saturday, 16 June, before games against Iceland and Volgograd on the 22nd of June, and South American side Argentina at St. Petersburg on the 26th of June. And moving to the foreign scene now, United States President Donald Trump has warned Iran of big problems if it resumes the nuclear program it agreed to curb in a 2015 international accord. Speaking in the White House as he holds French President Emmanuel Macron, Trump called the Iran deal a disaster and insane. The U.S. president has been threatening to reject an extension of the nuclear pact concocted in the Obama era by 12 May deadline. Emmanuel Macron is in Washington lobbying Donald Trump to review the pact. Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel is due to visit the U.S. Capitol on Friday to make a last-minute bid to dissuade Trump from potentially upturning the Iran agreement. Trump's warning comes a day after Iranian President Hassan Rouhani threatened severe consequences if the U.S. withdraws from the nuclear deal. And that's the AM News on Television Nigerian. A look at the major stories once again. Senator Dino Melaye admitted to hospital after ordeal with police. National Assembly to investigate theft of Senate mace. Former Information Minister backs presidency over lazy youth comments. And in sports, we told you that Super Eagles captain John Mikel Obi is hopeful of an incredible performance by the Super Eagles at the World Cup. I am Nten Egbang. Do have a pleasant Wednesday ahead of you. Bye for now.
Alright, welcome back from the news break. Now you're well informed, you know the big stories making the rounds right here in Nigeria. You're still watching Daybreak Nigeria, Africa's finest breakfast show. We have right here in the studio a security expert and other things in between. We've got Kevin Fineface right here with us. He's to look at the benefits of the recent African Land Forces Summit that held right here in Nigeria, where over 60 countries converged on the Federal Capital Territory to discuss where African security challenges would be met and the way forward. But good morning. Also, a man of many caps. Sorry, I could end up on
morning. Morning to that.
So, looking at the African Land Forces Summit that took place right here in Abuja, how would you describe the timing of the event and the huge number of countries that converged on Abuja?
It's often said that Nigeria is the trigger point, of Africa, where you have the housing of the trigger and the trigger point. So once Nigeria sneezes, the rest of Africa will sneeze. We have at least one of the highest populations in the continent, and the growing markets in terms of purchasing power and all of that. And but it's also been dealt with a lot of security issues, ranging from infiltration from outside, which is like with the ISIS and all of that. And so there's a need for security is basically a concentric measure put in place to forestall, to inhibit, and to prevent, or that sometimes gather information. So the timing of this summit, I think it's so apt, so timely, in the sense that looking at the previous events, the number of times that they've had, this is like the 5th time or so that we've had this, the event, and the turnout has been the best so far. It means that more stakeholders are coming on board to want to be part of the movement. And so in collaboration, in security collaboration, if you don't carry your neighboring countries along, if you don't carry as many persons that can help, like I saw the Americans and the British, all of that coming on board, because sometimes also something like this affords countries opportunities to also sell their hardwares, military hardwares, or profile solution in areas of service or intelligence gathering and all of that. Nigeria also had the opportunity to also sell our expertise in security architecture. So I think it's so timely. The only thing I look out for is that it's not just jaw thing, that they should be able to, from this point, after this whole meeting, the communiques and release and all of that comes up, and they're able to practically, through a pragmatic approach, to have a time-bound, mechanism to achieving those set goals that will be outlined in the summit. Because what has happened to what they had the last one before this time? Have they done anything as to carry out the ideals, expectations of that time? What has happened to the initial one that that took place? What has happened to those ones? Do we have measurable yardstick? If you don't have a measurable yardstick, it means it becomes just an exercise in futility without showing anything. Maybe government just want to spend money, come show off and all of that. More like a jamboree kind of thing, not like what they talked about Shogum anyway.
Okay, but looking at the fact that U.S. was in the forefront of this particular exercise, does that give you some level of confidence that the Nigerian army and security architecture have gained a lot, and in terms of selling of military hardware, could we say that the release of that $1 billion has attracted the U.S. to make them really interested, knowing that they are one of the markets for us to buy hardware from?
Anyway, see, beyond the U.S., the Western world basically look out for only one thing: commercial interest. Before pre-colonial era to colonial era to post-colonial era, you could see one trend: commercial interest.
Okay.
They need to better their societies. So what they look out for is to look out for opportunities that can enable them, sustain the egalitarian society back there. So the U.S. being part of it is not out of place. I mean, even if Nigeria doesn't have the kind of democracy that we have today, the U.S., in as much as that will give them opportunity to sell the weapons, will be there to come in and to provide solutions and all of that. If you look at current trends in the global terrorism, you realize that the U.S. government is looking for ways to reduce manpower on ground in fighting terror.
Okay.
And working through collaborators, so empowering countries and allied countries to have the wherewithal to be able to offer this. So they only offer technical services and all of that. So if that is the case, then the U.S. is, I would say, is very pragmatic and foresighted, saying that, okay, they've actually done the analysis to be sure that the intelligence gathered that this summit will bring in close to about X number, about 50 to 60 countries on board, and these countries, a lot of these countries, this will afford us opportunity if we can sell to 5 countries our weapons, because the Russians are also working so very hard in bringing hardware, military hardware to countries. though there have been a lot of sanctions that are trying to get the Russians for not deploying their weaponry, their military hardware. If you look at some of the things the Russians have done, they have some very high-tech, innovative military hardware that any country wants to buy into. Now, have a challenge, though, with all of these summits. Okay. Do we just do summits without these African countries thinking of how to also develop their own military hardware? Can't we have a summit where it's purely African summit and looking at skills, technology, and resources with which they can harness in developing military hardware that suit our terrain, fitting for our people, that is more customized and tailored for our own use? Can't we do that? Why are we not doing that?
With the Western world, would they be willing to share that technology?
Of course, technology today is not something that you have, solely for yourself. Technology is shared. I mean, you go to Google, anything you want to do, how to make bomb is out there, is in the open. And that's why you see people having access to this. The only thing is that sometimes you want to have, on-the-spot assessment. The US themselves also have people, they bring in from ISPAC to come and help them. They created opportunity for people. That's why they have the DACA, program in the US for people who have expertise to come in, and they create an enabling environment. So what have they done? They've been able to keep the country as a country where you want to belong to. You would want to die for it. So, okay, if you want to be part of this country, well, if you have this XYZ expertise, then you can come into this window. Why can't African countries create those enabling environments where it becomes a darling desire for some of these experts to want to come to Africa? Nigeria, for instance, there are a lot of US diplomats that have come to this country, and after they left their service, national service, they came back to this country to start one or two businesses because they saw the opportunity and they're back in here. But one thing we don't do is that because we don't have, the right leadership, which is also resulting to a lack of engagement in society. One challenge we've always had is that we've not had that cohesive management of our resources. So leaders come in, they are either ethnic or religious based, and they cut off every other person. They only favor their allies and friends. So what drives so much? Nepotism, or some form of cronyism is what drives. The system don't necessarily work the way they should work. So if our institutions are strengthened and they work effectively, there are incentives that can be created to bring in expertise for the benefit of the country's good. People who come to naturalize in this country, majority of them only do so because they needed to have the pass to come in and out freely. And the country has not thought about it to see how they can change the naturalization process into, expertise based, professional based, into skill based. That if you must give it this, you must have XYZ skill that can benefit this nation. And you're not going to be allowed to have dual citizenship. So you're forfeiting one to come into this. But you see, a lot of this nationalization has been done. You go check it. Majority of them are Lebanese, the business group, the Indians, a few that you have a few other people from other European countries that are managed all of that. So that is a case we should really look at.
Okay, I just want to talk about the security situation in Nigeria so far. We have had several complaints of security military personnel being involved in displacing people in different parts of, like Benue, for example. We've had cases there where the soldiers there go there, burn houses, displace people just because they are maybe fighting against something. Now, these people are meant to be protecting lives, and we are seeing the reverse the case. What do you think? How do you think this should be handled?
It's what happened from the reports we gathered that the community in question had some altercation with the military, and some soldiers were killed, or a soldier was killed, and in return the military retaliated. That tells you one thing: we don't have a country as it's supposed to be. There's a leadership problem. It happened some time ago during Obasanjo's time, where the military went and raised OD, and the Benue State, they went and also did the same thing. Why should it be so? We have a law. If there was death, if the community or youth in the community, attack the soldier, kill the soldier, why can't the law take its course? Why would the soldiers resort to self-help? Why? Even if we're in a military era, in a dictatorship, it is absolutely wrong because two wrongs can't make a right. So it shows the level of leadership we have in the country today is not leadership in the context of leadership. What we have is a type of rulership that believes that because power is within the domain, can utilize that power at the sole expense of the people. Why is it supposed to be the other way around? Because those in power were voted into power, in quotes. We're in a democracy. So if someone has done something wrong, the law should ordinarily take its course. Those proper investigations have been done, and maybe an inquiry will be done, that they know the culprits, arrest the culprits, take them to court, and the court will be the only legally recognized body to pronounce judgment. If the court says go demolish all the houses and burn all the houses and kill people, then that's the law. But the military has no rights. It shows lack of professionalism, and it also shows this aspect of probably those that were killed.
Officers should be court-martialed.
That's the first thing they should have been done. Not only just being court-martialed, they should be tried after being court-martialed and taken to a competent court of law and be tried. And the necessary provision we have in the law, which in this case is by death, and they should also be punished by death. They should be tried. The message should be sent. If the federal government did not do anything to that effect, if the president has not made a statement to that effect, then something is absolutely wrong with this country.
No statement have been made till now.
It's something is absolutely wrong. I noticed that the news is also being suppressed to some degree. That incident that happened in Benue is being suppressed in the 21st century. I think that we should almost start from the before. What has happened in OD, what has also happened in Benue, what's this community in Benue there's this community in Benue that, no, not Bama, Zakibian.
Yes, that's it.
The president as at that time should also be tried. And all military chiefs that were responsible as at that period should all be tried. Let's not set the right precedent. See, I believe in the rule of law. No matter what your law says, it's the rule of law.
All right. Okay, let's wrap up our conversation going back to the African Land Forces Summit that occurred. Do you think with the over 60 countries that were in Nigeria is going to give the Nigerian army that needed good image it deserves, if you take into consideration what she has done? Also, in the opposite, the fact that Amnesty International seem to always come out with a negative report about the Nigerian army. But with this international summit, does that help our image?
If you listen to Brigadier General Texas Chukwu, highlighting what the summit was all about, I don't think the Nigerian army actually in the business of trying to rebrand itself or into reputation management. To be seen as a good army is depending on your deployment and management of your resources and how you contain external threats, which is the core responsibility of the Nigerian army or the military in this case, or how you're able to partner with other security agencies in bringing about the much needed sanity of the country. If you go by the happenings and the inability of the Nigerian military currently as they speak to be able to curtail the growing rate of killings by suspected herdsmen or counter killings and all of that, the police in this case is also being helpless. So it's talking about good image. There's no need for that, quite frankly. I think what we should be looking at is, okay, what is the whole objective of this summit? Have they been able to achieve those objectives? Are there practical steps that needed to be taken as a way to ensure that the fallout of this summit will be implemented in the shortest possible time? Do they have short-term, mid-term, long-term goals to achieve? And how can that translate into a better society where there's law and order? How would that be able to strengthen Nigerians, border security in this sense now? Because the reason why you have such a summit is also to be able to know other countries' defense systems or persons that you have to relate with, to liaise with. We have neighbors here, we have Cameroon, we have Nigeria, you have Chad, you have Benin Republic, and all of those. We have even Togo to some extent. How do we, and we also have Sao Tome and Principe, on the other side. How do we manage these people as our core stakeholders in ensuring that our security as a country is guaranteed by way of these collaborators that we have? And how do we also interchange with our knowledge to see that those who have some form of security? How do we extend our security, architecture in helping South Africa and South Africa doing the same thing? So there's some form of symbiotic relationship that is expected. So if you flip in that direction, then you want to say, oh, this is a good thing that they have done. It will afford Nigeria the opportunity to be able to network, negotiate where there's need for negotiation. We just bought, some arms. The president said he anticipated, the approval, so he actually gave, approval for the release of the cash, which is an error. Such kind of things will always not allow us to have proper security architecture in frame because we need to properly plan. Now you're buying arms that you're not going to use until 2022. How does it connect to the realities on ground? We have a crisis situation at hand. What are the steps being taken? What measures have been taken to ensure every Nigerian is part and parcel of the security mechanism for the place? Because security is a concentric measure. It means that there has to be different cycle of responsibilities. The people must be there, the military, so all of these bodies must come in. The churches, the monks, the traditionalists, the pagans, and all of those people must be part of the system. Are we doing that? No. We just recently heard that they're going to release Nigerian security templates, which was supposed to be released. How many persons have come to know what that is? Has it been broken down to the village man who doesn't understand English to know what role he's supposed to play? No. Those are the things that I think we should be doing because there are measures we need to take now to ensure that this killing stops. 2 priests, 11 others killed in Benue. Is there any news we should be hearing? There are more deaths in this country now than it was even during the wartime.
All right, before we wrap up, just to ask you, do you think the African Land Forces Summit should be held more frequently?
Discourse is one thing that strengthens relationship. I mean, even at home, if you don't talk often with your spouse or your children, after a while you become very relevant. So it is something that they should not just only holding summits. It's something that they can always do virtual meetings also. Yeah. Have think tank groups that can meet and discuss, have follow-up. Then when it is in for an elaborate meeting, they all gather and reduce the fanfare, but do the core things that is necessary to be done. Let us see practical things as a fallout of this summit. Let's see some tangibles. Not just say it was a successful event attended by so many persons and because there was no crisis, the place was cordoned off and there was no crisis. No, successful event means the fallout of the meeting, the summit, has some short-term, mid-term, long-term goals to be achieved, and we see practical steps being taken in achieving that with time bounds. So there's a baseline, there's a timeline, and once that is done, then the people get to know this is the baseline. So we can hold them accountable to say, oh, you said that in 2 months' time this was going to happen. We have not seen that. What are you going to hold them accountable for or of? Nothing.
All right, very, very instructive note. We're going to wrap. I want to say a big thank you to Kevin Fineface, who is a security expert, amongst other things he's involved in. But on today's discourse, we're looking at the security, talking about the African Land Forces Summit that just took place right here in the Federal Capital Territory. I want to say thank you very much for also.
As a public good advocate, it's always something I look forward to doing, speaking truth to power and ensuring that we'll be able to get the right things to be done. And that you guys are doing fantastic work here and equipping the Nigerian public to get to know what they need to know. Your balanced stories are well appreciated, and we just say keep up the spirit.
All right, that's a good one there, talking about public good advocates. Take that and probably want to be part of that group of Nigerians doing good for us. All right, this is how we call it a wrap on Africa's Finest Breakfast Show, Daybreak Nigeria, on television Nigerian. My name is Anthony Gomwadi saying thank you to the entire production team, everyone who made this production awesome, from Uchechi to Noah to Josh to Ben, Philip, and the program manager. Everyone, want to say a big thank you for always being there for us. And this is how I say good morning. And
I would say do follow us and like our page on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Television Nigerian, on Facebook, tell your friends, Television Nigerian, Instagram, and of course Twitter at TV Nigerian. In everything you do, don't forget that life is very sweet. Try to run from trouble, and of course be good to yourself. And do not forget that you cannot climb the ladder of success with both hands in your pocket. My name is Cynthia Agote. Have yourself a wonderful day.